Distinguished guests, dignitaries, speakers, and colleagues, on behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend you all a very warm welcome to the 2023 United Nations Forum on Responsible Business and Human Rights in Asia and the Pacific. Each year, the forum provides us an opportunity to work together and to promote and deepen business respect for human rights. This year, the forum will explore how to move from commitments to action as we chart an inclusive and sustainable future.
In recent years, the United Nations, including UNDP, has been supporting the implementation of the UN Guiding Principle on Business and Human Rights. And in many countries of Asia and the Pacific, we've seen very good progress being made in the responsible business space. Responsible business is a must to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Responsible business should become the way of operating for all companies, in all sectors, in all countries. It is the future. To get there, we need to intensify our actions. We need to expand our partnerships, and we need to further accelerate progress. More work needs to be done. And whether we are private sector, investors, government, trade unions, civil society, human rights defender, youth movement, or international actors, we all must play our role in ensuring that the business sector fulfills its human rights obligations.
Countries in the Asia-Pacific region are among the most vulnerable to the impacts of the triple planetary crises of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss, which threatens not only human health and prosperity, but also the operations of businesses, big and small, across the region. Groups in vulnerable situations, such as indigenous people, women, and girls, are disproportionately impacted by these crises, resulting in negative effects on their lives, livelihood, and well-being. Last year, in addition to the recognition of the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, governments reached a landmark agreement to guide global action on biodiversity and nature. These have provided clarity on the actions that must be taken to facilitate a shift toward a more equitable and inclusive economic system that protects our planet. In this transition, we must ensure that no one is left behind.
In a world transformed by climate change, by emerging technology, and other global shifts, children are impacted more than anybody else in their present lives and in the future. Together, we have taken important steps to make sure children's rights are considered in policy initiatives, but there is still a long way to go. The Children's Rights and Business Principles remain a key milestone and guide for action to ensure the rights of all children are safeguarded everywhere. We call on businesses, on policymakers, on investors, on all of you to accelerate action and place the rights of children at the core of responsible business conduct.
All actors have a role to play in advancing human rights in business operations and in fostering sustainable enterprises and supply chains. We urge governments to ratify the ILO Fundamental Conventions and to strengthen social dialogue mechanisms. We also call on governments and social partners to ensure labor protection for all, including through the promotion of freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. And we call on businesses to respect human rights in their operations through responsible business conduct. By strengthening the enabling environment for sustainable enterprises and supply chain governance, governments, employers, and workers can help drive sustainable and inclusive economic growth and advance social justice. By doing so, each one of us will benefit.
Human mobility is rapidly evolving due to global shifts, climate change, and geopolitical dynamics. When supported by favorable conditions, human mobility can not only fulfill migrants' aspirations, but also accelerate progress towards the 2030 agenda. Addressing migration challenges requires collaborative efforts across various sectors. Governments, businesses, civil society, and others must unite, ensure equal treatment and respect for all individuals, regardless of their migration status. We must invest proactive measures today, build resilience for tomorrow, for the greater benefit for people on the move.
This year, the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights provides us with an important opportunity to reflect on the role of the responsible business agenda in a vision for the future of human rights. To address the current global and regional challenges, duty bearers must accelerate the implementation of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. National laws and policies must be strengthened to ensure state and business accountability for the myriad of violations and abuses that continue to take place despite many commitments made. Meaningful engagement with and participation by rights holders, including human rights defenders, activists, and civil society, must be accelerated, acknowledging their critical role to achieve better outcomes that leave no one behind for the good of both people and the planet.
The worsening climate crisis, conflict, and the pandemic challenge hard-won gains in gender equality. While we know the challenges, we also have tangible solutions. Among these, the Women's Empowerment Principles guide businesses to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in the workplace, marketplace, and community. We've seen a significant rise in corporate commitment to the principles in our region, but more work is needed to translate these commitments into measurable actions. To realise transformation, we must foster genuine partnerships and accountability. States, corporations, medium and small enterprises, and CSOs all have a role in advancing women's equality and responsible, inclusive, climate-resilient development to meet our collective promise of leaving no one behind.
We're now well into the next decade of the global implementation of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. So we've come a long way. But in realizing the guiding principles in our region, it's clear that we don't need more empty slogans, and we don't need more unfulfilled promises, and technical fixes aren't going to be enough. Instead, we need action. Action that reflects a transformative change in businesses, in how they understand their human rights purpose. We need to put people, the rights holders, at the center of the business and human rights agenda, and we need to reach those furthest behind first. So to all of you gathered at this year's RBHR Forum, please don't just speak up for the guiding principles, stand up for them too. Our human rights, our planet, indeed our common future, depend on your leadership.
The time is now to translate our ambition into outcomes.
For the rights of people everywhere in the planet.
We can and must do more.
Not only to set out expectations,
but to implement them.
And forge a path for a better future.
Join us as we move from commitment to action.
To transform our economies and to build a more inclusive and sustainable future for all.